So we're in 2024 today, and your trends journal is forecasting World War III. Plus, the banks are going to go bust. That was a year ago. That was Silverado and all those guys went bust. We're still in trouble there, so they have to start a world war to take the pressure off of our own administration. Is that what you're saying? Hello. Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. I'm broadcasting from Phoenix, Arizona, where it's either heaven or hell. And right now, it's pretty much like heaven. I have a very special guest today. He's one of my favorites. He grew up in an area that I went to school in, and it's a different part of the world. And it's kind of Long Island, New York, that area. But the one thing about that part of the world, on Long Island, New York, and Brooklyn and all this, you learn to speak quickly. So that's a great place to grow up. And for me, it was a good place to go to school. Our friend today is Gerald Celente. He's known for the Trends Journal. His research is impeccable, well respected. He's the producer, editor of the Trends Journal. So if you want to find out what's going on, you can subscribe to the Trends Journal, stay ahead of the trends that are coming. So with that, Gerald, welcome to the Rich Dad Show again. And I'd appreciate if you give a little bit of your background as how you got into this trend business.
Well, thank you so much. And by the way, I'm a lucky man. I'm a Napolitano, born in the Bronx, right after World War II, 1946. And as you said, you're born to be free. You know, don't tell me what to do. I won't tell you what to do. Let's have a good time, you know. And the spirit was so high. I began my career at a graduate school. I started working on political campaigns in Westchester County, which was the richest county in America. And they were grooming me. I became the assistant to the secretary of the New York State Senate. And from there, I taught, designed, and instructed a course called American Politics and Campaign Technology, How to Run Political Campaigns. And I quit the job up there in the Senate. It wasn't my kind of trip. Watching grown men grovel to suck their way up to the top isn't the way I grew up. And that's all the political system is. It's the people I hated in high school and college that wanted to be class president, the head of the student council. So then I became the number 2 guy running a major trade association. And again, as I said, I pulled a lot of crap in my life. In the 1970s, I was working for the chemical industry, and I was killing environmental legislation. And I was 28 years old, staying at the Willard Hotel and putting my meetings on at the Hay Adams. Here's a photograph of me and Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
I voted for Richard Nixon. That's how stupid I was, 1968. But anyway, I picked him up at the Chicago Hilton and put on a brunch for him and 16 of our board of directors 2 days before he's announcing, I'm 30 years old, running against Gerald Ford. So I've been with presidents, prime ministers, and princes. I've been on the other side. That's why I know what it looks like. And what happened was the Iranian conflict started to break out. This is when I became a trend forecaster. And people had no idea the United States overthrew the democratically elected government of Mossadegh in 1953. And he had the nerve, the Iranian president, to say, no, that oil does not belong to Anglo-Iranian oil, better known today as BP, or Standard Oil, better known today as ExxonMobil. That's our oil. No, right. It's not. And Churchill and Kermit Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt's great-grandson, he was with the CIA, they overthrew the government. And they had the Savak, the secret police that made the SS look good. So the hatred was building up. So when the revolution started happening in the late 1970s, this is when I became a political atheist. Because all they did was teach us to hate Iran without knowing any of the facts. And I wrote about this in my book, Trend Tracking, Far Better Than Megatrends, Time Magazine, how I became a trend forecaster. So as everybody's learning to hate these countries that they teach you to hate, I said, what will be the implications? And I bet $5,000, I didn't know what I was doing, on the oil futures and the gold futures. And I brought it up to almost $750,000. And that's when I quit my job. And I realized you have to look at things for the way they are, not the way you want them to be.
Correct.
And that opportunity misses those who view the world through the eyes of their profession. You have to look at all the different areas of what's going on and make connections between different fields. And that's the way I became a trend forecaster. And
so,
I mean, again, as I said, I was very, very fortunate in the way I grew up, where I grew up, and the different things that I've seen to have a vision of the future.
and so today, Gerald is editor and publisher of the Trends Journal, a publication I subscribe to, I read, look at, because if you're going to stay ahead of the times, you better figure out what's coming down the road, as they say.
Yep.
And we're going to talk today about a good year for gold, which is good. But also, the reason gold is good is our banks are going bust. But the one that is probably the closest and nearest dear to my heart is World War III. And as Gerald and I know, anytime governments or politicians get in trouble, they start a war. It's their way of taking the pressure off of them. So I'm fourth generation Japanese American, and Gerald, people still come up to me and says, well, how long have you been out of Japan? I said, since about 1880. Gerald, some Americans are so effing stupid. I said, well, how could you have left Japan in 1880? You don't look that old. Mm. So what was the cause of what caused Japan to bomb Pearl Harbor? That's a very sore subject in our book.
You know, I didn't know this until I do a weekly podcast with Judge Andrew Napolitano. And we were talking about oil prices and what was going on. And then somehow Japan came up. And he said, the United States cut off Japan's oil prior to the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And I said, yeah, I knew that. But, all I did was I Googled up Franklin Roosevelt seizes Japanese assets. And pop, up comes mainstream history today. You ready? United States freezes Japanese assets. On July 26, 1941, and of course, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor in December, so it's July, August, September, October, November, December. Franklin Roosevelt seizes all Japanese assets in the United States. You know why? In retaliation for the Japanese occupation of French Indochina. Well, those dirty Japanese. How dare they go into French Indochina when the French are in there stealing their rubber, their tin, rape, robbing, and pillaging? Well, they're up in Algeria, they're over in Morocco, they can go anywhere they want. How dare the Japanese go there? Then it gets better. It goes on to say that Japan followed up by occupying Cameron Naval Base, 800 miles from the Philippines, where Americans had troops. What the hell are Americans doing in the Philippines with troops? Yeah. Oh, and how dare those Japanese be in Vietnam? It goes better than this. President Roosevelt swung into action by freezing all Japanese assets in America, Britain, and the Dutch East Indies. Oh, the Dutch East Indies? You mean the Dutch robbing and pillaging and stealing stuff out of Indonesia? Right. Oh, yeah, the Dutch East Indies. We can do anything we want. Don't you know who we are? We're the Dutch. Anyway, followed suit. The result, Japan lost access to 3/4 of its overseas trade and 88% of its imported oil. They only import 100%, so they cut off 88%. Can't understand why they bombed Pearl Harbor. Oh, and you know what else they say right here? Those Japanese, they were the Great Britain was very upset because they were threatened because of their bases in Shanghai. Oh, the sun never sets on the British Empire. They could steal, rob, and pillage anywhere they want. How dare they? They're crazy people in charge. When all else fails, they take you to war. It was the Great Depression. What followed the dot-com bust? The war on terror. People forget the United States was in terribly into recession. People couldn't stand little Georgie
Right.
Bush, that daddy's boy, born on third base, and thought he had a home run. 88% of the people swallow the crap spewing out of Bush's mouth. We're going to get that guy Osama bin Laden, dead or alive. And America's longest war in Afghanistan. A losing war, cost trillions, killed hundreds of thousands, and what we get for it. It's the same maniacs that are in charge now.
So we're in 2024 today, and your trends journal is forecasting World War III. Plus, the banks are going to go bust. That was a year ago. That was Silverado and all those guys went bust. We're still in trouble there, so they have to start a world war to take the pressure off of our own administration. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. Look. Let's go to the Israel war. Again, in the Trends Journal, we write about it, and everybody knows that they get a discount. It's only $2.50 a week when they go to your site.
That please
we were writing about
not what we're saying. Yes,
not our language, the language of the mainstream media. We'll go back to December 2022. Tracking trends is the understanding of where we are, how we got here, to see where we're going. The Netanyahu government came in. All the media called it an extreme right-wing government. Again, week after week, what we do in the Trends Journal, we report what in the world is going on. So let's take Israel, for example. We subscribe to that's the Israeli newspapers. We go to Jerusalem Post. We go to Times of Israel. And then we go to Al Jazeera. We go to the ISNA, RINA, the Iranian. We look at what's going on in the world, how they're reporting it. We say how they're reporting it, and we give our trend analysis. For 39 weeks, beginning in 2023, there were protests in Israel against Netanyahu's Judicial Reform Act that basically said the courts don't count, the politicians are in charge, and they can't bring me up on my charges. 39 weeks of protests, not my language, the language from Isaac Herzog, the president of Israel. We're in a civil war. There were 39 weeks of protest. But October 7th happens. Hamas attacks. All of that's forgotten. They went to war. And again, we write the facts. 2 days after the Hamas attack, reports came out that the United States and Egypt had warned Israel that this was going to happen. Right. And there's report after report after report after report saying they knew it was going to happen. They let it happen.
They let it happen, yes. There was a Colonel McDonough or Colonel McGregor. He said, there's something fishy about that attack. He says, They let it happen.
When all else fails, they take you to war.
Right.
And people can't stand Netanyahu. His ratings are in the toilet. There are protests against him. But when the war broke out, everybody forgot about what happened for 39 weeks.
Right.
And so that's what we're ramping up to. And I'm very concerned about it. Again, the Ukraine war, this war, again, we only put the data in there where they want another $100 billion out of Europe to keep the war going in Ukraine. And they're coming out with this crap that, you were in the Vietnam War. I remember this. We're about the same age.
Yeah.
If we don't stop those commies in Vietnam, which now, by the way, they're our second largest. We import more clothing and shoes from Vietnam than anywhere else. They're our number two. But they're still the same communists that if we didn't stop them, those dominoes will keep falling. And before you know it, they'll hit the shores of California. They're saying the same thing with the Ukraine war.
So again, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Rich Dad Radio Show. We're talking to my friend Gerald Celente. Again, he grew up where I went to school in New York, and it's a very different part of the world. And you better talk fast, talk straight, and don't BS anybody. So Gerald is also in charge of the Trends Journal, a publication I highly recommend people subscribe to, because you've got to see what's coming down the road before it hits us. So when we come back, we'll be talking more about banks going bust, which will mean gold's going to go up, as well as Bitcoin. but also World War III. And that's what concerns me the most, is because I served twice in Vietnam. The place you mentioned was Cam Ranh Bay. That was my first place I ever stopped. I sat out there in Cam Ranh Bay delivering 500, 750, and 1,000-pound bombs to the U.S. Air Force out there. But anyway, we'll come back. We'll have Gerald Celente and why we're going to World War III. We'll be right back.
Have you heard about the expanding influence of BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and its potential to severely impact the US dollar by possibly creating a new world currency? Even JP Morgan said, and I'm paraphrasing, the impact of BRICS would most likely be felt here in the US, where moving away from the dollar would cause our financial assets like our IRAs and 401ks to lose value. We agree with JP Morgan and many others. Now's the time to position yourself for stability, security, and wealth protection. So take it from Robert and me, whether you're a seasoned investor or just starting, we believe that gold should be a part of everyone's portfolio. Seize the opportunity to ensure your financial future with gold, and do it with one of the best in the industry, Allegiance Gold. Allegiance Gold has done things right from the beginning, having earned 5 stars with TrustLink and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. Allegiance Gold can help protect your IRA or 401k with physical gold and silver, or you can have it delivered securely to your doorstep. Get up to $5,000 in free silver on a qualifying investment when you visit protectwithrobert.com today. Or you can call 844-3-ROBERT. That's 844-3-ROBERT. Robert sounded the alarm in 2023, and his warnings came true. Unfortunately for many, it was a year of lost wealth, but it was the complete opposite for the billionaire class. Now the wealthiest 10% of Americans own over 92% of all U.S. stocks. But here's the good news. You can invest just as these billionaires did. Robert has said, if you want to be rich, do what the rich do. So you can diversify across the asset classes with what are called low correlation alternative assets. For example, fine art as a tangible asset that rarely ever changes hands, the fine art market is more resistant to traditional volatility. So the fine art component of these billionaires' portfolios are at less risk. And now you can add the same blue chip art to your portfolio from the comfort of your own home. You don't have to be an art expert to do so. Masterworks, our longtime sponsor, has an art investing platform with over 880,000 people on board and nearly $1 billion in assets under management. From their successful art sales, they have consistently delivered a profit to their investors, and you can even go check their numbers. Our viewers can skip Masterworks' waitlist by using the link in the description below. Hi everyone, I'm Kim Kiyosaki. Thank you for being with us today. As CEO and co-founder of the Rich Dad Company, I can assure you Robert and I are both dedicated to our Rich Dad mission to elevate the financial well-being of humanity. And you are the humanity. We truly want you to succeed. When you succeed, we all succeed, and our mission grows stronger. With that in mind, I'm excited to extend a personal invitation to you to elevate your financial well-being by attending our exclusive free online wealth building event hosted by Robert. You'll learn what to focus on first to start increasing your cash flow immediately. You can reserve your seat right now by going to richdadonline.com. Just go to richdadonline.com. The event is 100% free and will help you achieve your financial goals.
Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki. This is Rich Dad Radio Show. Again, we make recommendations, but we don't say to do anything. We don't give investment advice. Our guest today is a longtime friend, Gerald Celente. Like I said, he grew up where I went to school on the North Shore of Long Island, and that's a different part of the world there. I always said, Gerald, Long Island's just a seed from the nation. You know, it's a different country.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're talking about the golden year for gold, but what's the reason for it is the banks are going bust. Everybody knows that. Bitcoin is going through the roof. But the the part that concerns me the most is World War III. We're on the verge of it right now. And Joel, could you mind showing us the Trends Journal and the articles you wrote on this? This is a publication I subscribe to. I highly recommend. I make nothing from it, but I suggest you subscribe to it. So would you show us this issue?
This is spring 2014. So how happy that guy is. The article was written by Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, who was the Assistant Treasury Secretary under Nixon. Under Reagan. I keep saying Nixon for Reagan. But anyway, here's the article. Washington is driving the world to the final war. And just briefly, Ukraine presented the perfect opportunity for Washington to advance its hegemonic agenda. In a speech at the National Press Club last December, meaning 2013, Assistant Secretary of State Victoria Nuland boasted that Washington had invested $5 billion in non-governmental organizations, NGOs, in Ukraine. You know why? For the purpose to teach democracy. They overthrew the government. Here's the deal. Ukraine's been busted since the breakup of the Soviet Union.
Right.
Again, the European Union called it the most corrupt country in Europe. And the latest polls are showing from Ukraine, you could look it up, the number one concern of the people, other than the war, is government corruption. So what happens? Yanukovych, who was the president of Ukraine, made a deal, they were going broke, with the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and the EU, the European Union, to borrow money. Putin came along and said, listen, I'll give you lower interest rates, and I'm going to cut the price of your gas and oil. Yanukovych said, okay, we're going with you. No, you're not. That was the revolution. That was Victoria Nuland, the clown lady that just left under the Biden administration, still an undersecretary of state, that was passing out cookies and candy along with John McCain in Maidan Square. The United States overthrew the government. People forget. They don't want to know. Go back to the breakup of the Soviet Union, the deal made between Gorbachev and Bush Sr., that NATO would not, quote, NATO would not move 1 inch further. There were 16 NATO countries back then. Now they doubled it up. So if we had the Russians up there in Canada and the Chinese down there in Mexico with missiles aimed at the United States, oh, we'd be so happy.
So anyway, tell us more about this Trends Journal. How much does it cost, and how often does it come out?
It's a weekly. It's over 170 pages a week. You can listen to it. People are, I can't read 170 pages. It's a magazine. You read what you want. We cover everything from AI to high-tech science, geopolitics, economics, technocracy. We cover the world, health, fitness, nutrition, all the trends going on that we can give you. And it's for the grand total of $2, if they subscribe through you, of 50 cents a week. $2.50 a week.
Thank you.
Nothing. The Wall Street Journal, $5 a day. They shrunk it down to nothing. We're lucky to get one or two trend-worthy stories out of it. I need data. We need facts. The New York Times, they call themselves the paper record. It's a toilet paper record, $4 a day. Right. We're not getting anything from this. We've never had to work harder because we have to go around the world now searching for information, for data, so we can see the trends developing, because journalism is dead in America. God.
Amen. So let me ask you this. This trend I'm concerned about now, everybody knows gold's going up. Bitcoin is now passing, I think, 70,000 a coin. And our banks are going bust, and we're on the verge of World War III. And they're all related. And I think that's what I love about your publication, is that you kind of sew it all together to give us a more complete view versus a fragmented view. So Why are our banks in trouble?
Okay. Let's go back to the COVID war. Launched on Chinese Lunar New Year, the year of the rat, in January 2020. They locked down everything. Locked down everything. You can't go to work, go home. And now people stay working from home, right? And they're saying to themselves, week after week, month after month, year after year, I've been getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to commute an hour and a half each way. I hated it. And costing me all that. I'm not doing it anymore. Now, let's say I'm the guy that owns the cubicles. I don't see them anyway. Yeah, stay home. I don't need all this. I'm paying all this rent. I don't need it. So we had forecast this was going to happen in the Trends Journal in May of 2020. One of our top trends was office building bust. So here are the facts now that they're finally reporting. Okay, here we go. Downtown Portland's office vacancy rate is highest in the nation. It's only at 29%. Vacant. Oh, Bloomberg. Oh, this is April 2nd. A little late on it. Office vacancy rates near 20% to set fresh record, Moody's says. Okay. 20% of the offices are vacant. Nobody there. How are you going to pay your debt if you own the building? Vacant. And not only that, how about all the businesses that depended on commuters? Oh, they're going out of business too. Now let's look at the office occupancy rate, meaning people in the office. Go to Castle Systems with a K. Of the 10 largest cities, it's around 50%. So now we keep going.
But this
S&P Global downgrades outlook of 5 regional banks in U.S. to negative. Oh, you talked about last year with Signature and Silicon Valley and First Republic. Do you know what the data now is of negative banks? It's not 5. It's almost 300. And there's 300. Here, report. 5 banks have combined $500 billion in commercial real estate loans. And banks face $2 trillion wall of commercial property debt. $2 trillion coming due. They're not going to be able to pay it. The banks are going to go bust. It's going to be a banking crisis, the likes of which we have never seen in the world.
Correct. But there's one more thing, Gerald, is that those banks, a lot of the buildings are REITs, real estate investment trusts. And those are in the pensions of all these baby boomers.
That's right.
And so that's why I wrote a book years ago about who stole my pension, is that the NASDAQ is at all-time high. Everybody's happy. They're drinking, partying. But our stock market is about to go down because of all those office buildings, because of COVID.
I agree with you 100%. And now this is an article from April 5th. Banks stall for time on office loans. Stall for time, right? For the banks, the phenomenon which critics often dub extended and pretend has added significantly to the 2024 maturities. So what they're doing is they're saying, yeah, loans come due. I don't have the money. Don't worry, we're going to extend it. So they call it, again, the real language is extend and pretend. Wait, you're going to have to pay more on your interest. The interest rates have gone up. We're not going to let you go default. We're going to pretend that everything is okay. When this thing goes down, we're going to see again the banking crisis. The markets are going to crash. That's why gold prices are going up. Look what one of your top trends for 2024 is. Again, 2 of them. One we said, again, they came out on January 2nd, our top trends. Golden year for gold. Oh, what's gold? It's about, $2,345 an ounce as we're speaking.
Right.
What was it? Oh, it's only up about $300 since we said that. Oh, and the banks go bust? No one anywhere is reporting the banking crisis as we are. And so that's what's driving gold prices up. And then what's going on in the Israel war and the Ukraine war? Israel wiped out a couple of guys, about several people over there in Syria in the consulate, right, last week. Iran says they're going to retaliate. How bad is this retaliation going to be? Because again, if this gets worse, you've already seen oil prices, Brent crude, which was around $73 just several months ago, now to over $90 a barrel. That's going to go to $130 a barrel, and that'll crash the global economy and the equity markets if this continues to escalate, which the crazy people, I believe, are going to keep going, because when all else fails, they take you to war.
But also, that's a depression you're talking about.
Oh, you got it.
So the reason I recommend, I make nothing from recommending the Trans Journal, but the beauty of what Gerald does is he sews it all together, because they're not isolated incidences. They're all operating, they're all holding hands and singing Kumbaya, hoping the inflation's transitory. And then, Gerald, my friend is a congressman from northern Michigan. He and I he was a lieutenant general in the Marine Corps. I got kicked out as a lieutenant. We were all pilots. But he just said the only thing that the price is coming down on is fentanyl.
Yep.
He says, this guy Biden has done such a great job of opening the border up. Fentanyl is pouring across the border. So now the drug dealers don't have to make it. It's so cheap from China that they don't have to worry about it. I mean, Gerald, we can't make this stuff up.
No. Again, it's a freak show.
Yeah.
And the freaks are running the show. I was talking about the office building bust. This just came out on April 9th from Financial Times. Brooklyn's Saron Tower on shaky ground after developer defaults. One story they talk about, one developer. And by the way, these buildings are not transferable into housing. Office buildings built within the last 50 years are junk. They're steel and glass. They're non-convertible.
Well, the internals are not designed for residential.
Exactly.
So anyway, Gerald, I appreciate our friendship, our years of friendship. I always look forward to your show because I know I'm going to catch it straight. I don't have to wonder what you're saying because you'll tell us straight. And thank you for writing the Trends Journal. But we're screwed up right now, big time.
No, we need peace on earth. And again, you were in the military. I mean, the bridges are rotting in front of our eyes. The roads are rotten. The New York cities, the big cities, are all filled with immigrants and homeless. And we're spending all this money to send another $60 billion to keep the Ukraine war going. We only sent $130 billion. I launched Occupy Peace over a decade ago. Close all the bases overseas, bring home the troops, secure the homeland, and rebuild America. We need to become a self-sustaining economy. We have all the human and natural resources to do it. Made in America.
Hey, Gerald,
I'm
going to take a big risk with you right now. If you keep it down to 1 minute. Did you take a look into that ship, the Dali, that hit the bridge, backed into it? Did you guys look at that thing at all?
No.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, okay. Because I went to Kings Point on Great Neck, New York, and then when I saw that ship hit the bridge, I go, shit, I almost did that twice as a midshipman, what I mean? But that's fishy as hell too. That one is, I hear so many things. So if you could take a look at it, I'd appreciate it because I like to read about that one.
Yeah.
But there's so many things that are coincidences, just like October was October 7th. I mean, they knew they were coming and they let it happen. The same thing happened to us in Vietnam all the time. We knew it was coming and they let it happen. So my friend, I thank you. Thanks for keeping the Trends Journal going. And I look forward to interviewing you next time.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for all you do and all the great information that you give people to help them, because we need all the help we can get.
Yeah, we need the truth. First casualty is truth. Yeah. So thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
And we come back, we'll have a final word from the Rich Dad Radio Show. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Again, I want to thank Gerald Celente. Like I said, I went to school where he grew up on the North Shore of Long Island, just outside of New York City. And the thing I liked about those characters who grew up there, a lot of those young men, the thing about New York is they talk to you straight. They're not politically correct. And so I strongly recommend, I make nothing from it, subscribe to the Trends Journal. It'll open your eyes, because the most important thing we all need right now is a vision into the future. And like Gerald was talking about, is that it's a good year for gold, but it's also caused by our banks going bust. But as our banks go bust and the price of oil goes to $100 and drugs stream across our southern border, we're on the verge of World War III. A lot of those young men coming across our southern border into Texas and Arizona are military age. And already I live here in Arizona, and there's a lot of, warfare going on in people's homes as these young men go from house to house. I'm afraid we're in very serious times, and so please subscribe to the Trends Journal. And thank you for listening to the Rich Dad Radio Show. Thank you.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.